Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. This is Pedro Davis, court interpreter. I see that we have two people identified as Spanish speakers on this morning's calendar, and they're in about the middle of the calendar.
That is correct. Thank you for being here.
I'll be standing by.
Thank you.
I'll stand by. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Tell me your full name.
Jeremiah Dugall.
Mr. Dugall, you are here today on charges of possession of a controlled substance and a fugitive warrant. The fugitive warrant is out of New Mexico, Lordsburg District. It looks like the warrant was issued back in May. There is not a bond amount on the warrant. So at this time, sir, I am going to impose a bond on this matter of $50,000 cash. Your hearing for this fugitive matter is going to be October 16th at 2:30 in the afternoon. The Legal Defender's Office will be representing you at those proceedings here. So the bond of $50,000 cash, if you're able to post that, then obviously you would be released, but you will need to show up on October 16th at 2:30. If you're still in custody on this fugitive matter, sir, then the jail will make sure that you're transported to court on that date. Someone from the Legal Defender's Office will be in contact with you to explain what's going to happen at the fugitive hearing. All right. So obviously,
Your Honor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but may I be heard on bond when you get a chance?
sure.
Okay, so this, the incident date in this case was from 2021. According to pretrial services report, the complaint was filed in 2024. It's my understanding that he lives here in Arizona and didn't attend the hearing because of technical issues. He's 37 years old. He's got a job. He has a local AZ license. He's a 2 on in non-violent on the scale. Given all that, we're asking that you impose a nominal bond on this case. It's the charges are for simple possession of a controlled substance.
So Mr. Dugall, again, this is a matter that is not within Arizona's jurisdiction, and New Mexico has asked for a warrant for your arrest. At this time, it is a national warrant. Sometimes they put bond amounts on warrants. In this particular case, they did not. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. The gentleman sitting next to you is an attorney here in Tucson with the Public Defender's Office. Someone from the Legal Defender's Office, as I've indicated, is going to be present at your fugitive matter, but the Public Defender's Office is representing you for purposes of this hearing. I don't know, Mr. Hotchkiss, if you have any input that you want to add. I know this isn't our jurisdiction.
Right, Your Honor, I was recommending $20,000. I guess the main takeaway for me is that this is not a no bond situation. One of his prior felony convictions is particularly concerning, and clearly he's not attending court hearings as he's expected to in the state next door. So for those reasons, I thought 20,000 was appropriate, but certainly he needs to have some sort of bond imposed. Thank you.
So based on information from counsel, I will reduce my inclination for bond from 50,000 to 20,000, and I will have that be a cash or secured. Sir, I know you have questions, but I need you to listen to me, and then I'll give you an opportunity. Did you hear what I just said? What did I say?
Mr. Secure.
So it will be a cash or secured bond at this time. So if you're able to post that bond, You need to appear at Pima County Superior Court on the 8th floor on October 16th at 2:30 for that hearing. If you do remain in custody, they'll transport you. All right? That's all for today.
Okay. So, whoever just needs to come up with $10,000.
20 cash, 10%, 20 securing the rest of the property.
Oh, okay, so basically 10,000 cash, and then the rest property, or
It'd be 2,000.
$2,000 cash, and then the rest property.
Right.
And then you reach into it. Okay. Ready, man?
Good luck.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I've been doing the whole court thing on the phone, and I missed one.
Okay, talk for attorney.
Yes. Okay, thank you, sir.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Alberto Vias Morales.
Mr. Villegas Morales, you were here today on a warrant out of Pima County Justice Court for shoplifting. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. It looks like you are being held at the jail for another matter. So regardless of what I do on this case today, know that you're likely still going to be in custody at the Pima County Jail until your other matter resolves. Do you understand that, sir?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to release you on this case if you promise to appear at a future court date that I give you. Will you do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Your next court date on this case is going to be November 12th at 8:30 in the morning. If you are still in custody, the jail will make sure to either transport you or have you appear via video, much like you're doing today. But if you do get released on your other matter, you'll also be released on this warrant, but you have to show up at justice court. If you don't appear and you're out of custody, they could issue another warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yeah.
And your release conditions, sir, also include not returning to where the shoplifting occurred, to that incident location. That's where the victims are, and you can't go back there. Do you understand those additional conditions of release?
Yes.
All right, that's all for today.
Your Honor, Guerrero refused, so this is White.
All right. Are we going to try again for Guerrero this evening?
It's his second time refusing, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could continue him for later tonight.
All right. So we'll show resetting it to tonight.
Is this for the pre-trial release service thing?
This is your initial appearance.
Yeah, I saw somebody who was pre-trial release services. So
He won't say anything about what happened in this case. Okay, judge is gonna determine your release conditions.
All right, sir, I need you to tell me your name.
Willie White,
Mr. White, you are here today on charges of second-degree escape and criminal damage. You do have the right to remain silent on those charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint Cornelia Honchar to represent you. You do have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing here today. He won't be your attorney, but he is going to represent you for your conditions of release, which is what we're here to set today. I've also been informed, Mr. White, that you do have a hold. It looks like a probation hold. So regardless of what we do on this case today, you're not going to be released until your probation matter is resolved. Do you understand that, sir?
Yeah.
I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation as to conditions of release. They're asking for a $2,500 cash or secured bond and release to pretrial if you're able to post that bond. That is my inclination. Counsel, did you want to be heard further?
That sounds reasonable to us, right?
State,
Next question, that, at what percentage?
that's a cash or secured, sir. So I'll let your attorney explain that to you.
And nothing further from us, Your Honor. Thank
Okay. So your next court date, Mr. White, is going to be October 21st at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for attending all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. If you're in custody, the jail will make sure you're transported to future hearings. But if you do bond out on this case and get your other matter resolved, it's your responsibility to stay in contact with your attorney so you know when your court dates are. You'll also need to report to pretrial services. Do you understand all of that, Mr. White?
I'm having, can you go over the stipulations of the release again?
So if you get released, you're going to have to contact pretrial services and stay in contact with them. And that's if you post your $2,500 bond. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms. So if you do post bond and you get released, that's what you have to agree to.
Okay, so if and when I go to court for what I'm already probation hold, so I would have to post bond on this case to get out,
Yeah.
and the bond would be 2,500.
Yes.
All right.
All right. That's all for today, Mr.
Oh
White.
yeah. Also, yeah, can I ask you a question?
You should probably ask the attorney seated next to you, sir.
No, I know how to speak for myself, right?
Remember that anything you say can and will be used against you. This is a recorded proceeding, so I just need to make sure that you understand that.
Fully understand. I simple thing. I had to voice my in custody criminal charges that I have
Sir, I've appointed, I-
criminally.
I've,
Oh,
ap-
no, what
I
I'm
have
saying is
appointed.
I have 3 cases. Okay, can you hear me out just
No,
1 second?
No, sir, I'm gonna stop you now. We're done. You have Ms. Honchar that's been appointed to you. She is,
You have to kill me, because I'm not bowing down to white slick. I'm not, this foot. Misdemeanor, you got, sorry, you, or come up with. Yeah.
Let's see charges. Alright. Oh, that one? Yes. Yeah, and then come back around. Yeah.
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
My name is Alexandria H.
Ms. Hopper, this is the time for your initial appearance on a charge for domestic violence assault. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. This is the time for setting conditions of release as to this particular charge. It is a misdemeanor. If I release you today, ma'am, do you promise to appear at a future court date that I give you?
Yes.
All right. There's also going to be additional conditions of release. I have had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial service in this matter. I also have a Form 4C, which is a risk assessment that was completed by the Marana Police Department with the victim, Mr. Hampton, in this case, and I have considered that in setting your conditions of release. So you'll be released this afternoon or later this morning. Your next hearing date at Marana City Court is going to be November 6th at 10 o'clock in the morning. You have to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes.
There are also some additional conditions of release. You are not to commit any further acts of domestic violence, and you cannot have any contact with Mr. Hampton. Do not go to where he lives. You cannot have any contact with him. No texting, no calls, social media, absolutely no communication. Do you understand that as well, Ms. Hopper?
Yeah.
By those conditions?
Yeah.
You get released later today. You'll get paperwork from the jail, but it'll have your conditions of release on it. And it'll also have your next court date and time along with the Abbey court. All right, you're all done for today.
Thank you so much.
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Angela Norga or Angie.
Tell me your name again.
Angie Norga.
Okay.
Angie Career Norga.
So it's 105. All right. Miss Noriega, you are here today on charges of disorderly conduct and assault out of Tucson City Court. These are misdemeanor charges. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. This is the time to set your conditions of release on these charges. We're also going to do an arraignment today on these charges. You are presumed innocent, and I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. If I release you today, Ms. Noriega, will you promise to appear at a court date that I give you at Tucson City Court?
Yes.
Additional conditions of release are going to be that you cannot have any contact with your granddaughter, Adriana, at this time. Do you understand that? I just need you to answer out loud, ma'am.
Yes.
So we're going to release you from custody today. You'll get released later today. Your next court date is going to be November 21st at 9:30 in the morning in front of Judge Cranshaw at Tucson City Court. Your conditions of release are to commit no acts of domestic violence. You can't have any contact with Adriana Noriega and do not go to her residence. Do you understand all of those conditions?
Yes.
If you fail to appear at the hearing on November 12th, and any hearings after that, they could be set in your absence. There could also be a trial in your absence. And if you're convicted at that trial and you can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand the consequences if you don't show up?
Yes.
When you get released later today, you'll have paperwork that'll have that court date on it. It will give you the address, the name of the judge, and the information that I just provided to you. All right, ma'am?
Thank you.
That's all for today.
Oops.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Luis Rene Arpizu.
Mr. Arvizu, you are here today on city court charges involving domestic violence assault and domestic violence disorderly conduct. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I have had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. Looks like an address that I have for you is on South Villanova Avenue. Is that still a good address for you, sir?
Correct. Correct. I've been lately.
Okay.
That's where I've been staying.
Okay, so if I release you on these charges today, sir, will you promise to appear at a court date that I give you at Tucson City Court?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's on the last one, sorry. The other condition of your release, sir, is going to be that you not have any contact with Alex Kraft. So that means you're not going to be able to go anywhere near Alex. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You have a place that you can stay that is not with Alex.
I do. But I do have all my things and my dog over there.
Okay. So what I will do, sir, is check a box on your conditions of release form that you'll get when you get released later today that allows you to return, but you have to go with law enforcement to retrieve your personal belongings. So they'll want a copy of the order for you to be able to go back there and get your things. You just need to go with them.
Can I just ask one question?
Of course.
Do they take me from here there, or do I have to call them and just meet them there?
You'll have to call, meet them there. So I am going to release you on these charges, sir, today. Your next court hearing is going to be November 19th at 1:30 in front of Judge Millian at Tucson City Court. I am entering pleas of not guilty for you today. We're also doing your arraignment as well as your initial appearance. You are presumed innocent. I do need to tell you that you are ordered to appear at that November 19th hearing. And if you fail to appear at that hearing and any subsequently set hearings, they can go forward in your absence, including a trial. And a warrant, if it is issued, would be outstanding for you. If you're convicted at trial and can't be sentenced within a time frame within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yeah.
All right. So as I've indicated, your conditions of release when you get out later today, commit no acts of domestic violence and don't have any contact with Alex. You can return with law enforcement to get your belongings. So you'll get released from the jail and then you'll need to contact law enforcement to go with you to the residence.
Is this no contact like forever?
It's just until the next hearing or until a court date changes it. But from now until you get a future court order, you do need to abide by that no contact order.
Oh.
Okay?
Oh.
If you need assistance, sir, you can stop by. There's a transition center right outside the Pima County Jail. It's a trailer that's kind of right off the property. And if you stop by there, they may be able to assist you if you need any assistance with housing. They also have other services and agencies in Pima County that they connect with. So if you want to stop by there, they may be able to help you. But you can either call 911 or go to a nearby police station to where you need to get your belongings. Just make sure you have law enforcement to accompany you. All right? That's all for today, sir.
Okay.
Sabi. Blanca.
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Blanca Steepen.
Ms. Steepen, you are here today for an initial appearance and arraignment on charges out of Tucson City Court that involve assault, criminal damage, and endangerment. There are 4 counts of endangerment. The victims listed in this case are your minor children. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You are presumed innocent, and I am going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. If I release you on these charges today, ma'am, will you promise to appear at a court date that I give you at a later time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The other issue is if I release you at this time, you're not going to be allowed to have contact with the victims in this case. So you're going to need to reside at an alternate address from today until some other court order may change that in the future. It looked like from information I reviewed from pretrial services, you may be able to reside with your sister.
No, I have my own home. I had 50% of custody of my children, and my ex-husband has taken them. So they are staying with him.
Okay, so if you go back to your house, your children are not going to be there.
They're not.
Okay. All right. So I am going to release you today, ma'am. Your next court hearing is November 14th at 9:30 in front of Judge Verena at Tucson City Court. When you get released later today, you'll get a copy of your paperwork that'll have that date and time and also the address for Tucson City Court. I do need to tell you that you are ordered to appear for that hearing, and if you don't appear at that hearing and any subsequently set hearings, including a trial, they could go forward in your absence. If you're convicted at trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days of that conviction, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
Your additional conditions of release are to not have any contact with your minor children. The lawful representative, it looks like, is Joel Steepen. Don't go to their house or where they're living. Do you understand those additional conditions?
Yes.
All right. Did you have a question?
I had a question about do I get a public defender, or when I show up to court, will I bring a lawyer?
So if you want to retain a lawyer, ma'am, you can do that. This is not a case where you will automatically be appointed an attorney, but you absolutely can retain one if that's what you want to do.
Okay.
Okay? That's all for today.
Thank you, ma'am.
Farnsworth.
Yeah. And I believe Mr. Farnsworth is next. Do we have a victim on the line? Anna, are you there? Sir, tell me your full name.
Full name's Marsten Red Hawk Farnsworth Smith.
Mr. Farnsworth Smith, you are here today for city court matters, charges involving domestic violence assault and disorderly conduct, also a domestic violence offense. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. This is your initial appearance and arraignment for these charges out of Tucson City Court. You are presumed innocent. I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf today. This is the time to set your conditions of release for these charges. We did have Anna call in earlier and indicated that she wanted to be heard. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. Anna, can you hear me? Are you there? All right, it doesn't look like she's on there at this time, so we are going to proceed. Hang on. We're getting a call, so give me just a second. We're going to give her just a minute to log back in. Okay, so she is not going to be calling in. So, Mr. Farnsworth Smith, at this time, if I release you on these charges, do you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I am going to release you on your promise to appear. Your next court date is going to be November 19th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's going to be in front of Judge Millian at Tucson City Court. When you get released later today, you'll get a copy of your paperwork that will have that date and time and also the location for City Court. You are ordered to appear at that hearing. If you don't appear at that hearing, the hearing and any subsequently set hearings, including a trial, could go forward in your absence and a warrant could issue for your arrest. If you're convicted at a trial and aren't sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, your further orders are to commit no acts of domestic violence. In reviewing information from pretrial, it does look like they were able to talk with Anna in this case. She did not indicate that she was concerned about continuing to have contact with you. That's up to the two of you. But if she does not want to have contact with you, you need to make sure that you stay away from her. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
There is also indication in the pretrial services report that you may be on probation. So you do need to contact your probation officer upon release from custody later today to let them know about this. Do you understand that as well?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all for today.
Gilman?
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
I'm Louise Gilman.
Ms. Gilman, you are here today on charges stemming from Tucson City Court for domestic violence assault, criminal damage, and disorderly conduct. They are all domestic violence charges. This is the time for your initial appearance and arraignment, so we're going to set conditions of release today. You are presumed innocent. I am going to enter pleas of not guilty on your behalf. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. If I release you today, ma'am, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future?
Yes, of course.
All right, so I am going to release you on your promise to appear. Your next court date is November 19th at 1:30. That's in front of Judge Millian at Tucson City Court. When you get released later today, you'll get a copy of your paperwork that will have that information on there.
Okay.
I do need to tell you that you are ordered to appear at that hearing, and if you fail to appear at that hearing, it could go forward in your absence. They could also set subsequent hearings, including a trial. Warrants could be issued for your arrest if you don't appear at those hearings. And if they go forward with a trial and you're convicted, if you're not sentenced within 90 days, you could lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand all of those rights?
Yes, ma'am.
And the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The additional condition of release that I am going to add is that you not commit any acts of domestic violence. I reviewed information provided by pretrial services, and it doesn't look like there's an indication that the victim in this case is concerned about future contact. So I'll leave that to the two of you. But if she does not want to have contact with you, then make sure you find some other place to be that's not with her, okay?
Okay.
All right. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. That's all for today.
Thank you.
Pedro. Your arms are usual.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Ellen Pedro.
Ms. Pedro, you are here today on a charge for criminal trespass. It does look like it is a domestic violence offense. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. If I release you on this charge today, Ms. Pedro, will you promise to show up at Justice Court at a date and time that I give you?
Yes.
All right, I am going to release you on your promise to appear for this charge. Your next court date is going to be November 12th at 10:30 in the morning at Justice Court. You will need to appear. If you fail to appear at that time, they'll issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequence if you fail to appear?
Yes.
All right. Additional conditions of release are that you not have any contact with the victim in this case. Don't go back to the incident where the incident occurred on West Alaska Street. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure you do not go back there once you get released. I am showing.
I have my,
Go ahead.
if I have my things, if I have my things there and I need to get them, what do I need to do?
I am going to check a box on your conditions of release form that says you may return to the house with a police escort. So when you get released, make sure you get that paperwork and then you can either call the police or go to a nearby police station and show them that order. Law enforcement must accompany you to the residence so you can get your belongings.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. And ma'am, I'm showing a general delivery address for you. Are those still your circumstances or do you have a place to stay?
I have a place to stay.
Okay. Well, I will tell you that there is the transition center, which is right outside the jail. It's a trailer that's right off the property there. They have resources that assist people with housing and other services in our community. They're really connected to a lot of services here in Tucson. So if you wanted to stop by the transition center when you leave the jail today, they might be able to assist you. It's just an option I wanted to make you aware of, okay?
Okay, thank you.
That's all for today.
Your Honor, this is one of our Spanish speakers.
And we have the Spanish interpreter on the line.
Interpreter's ready, thank you.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Hola, señor, dígame su nombre.
Luis Jesús Romero Bray.
Luis Jesús Romero Bray.
Sir, you were here today on felony charges involving negligent homicide, aggravated assault, serious injury, and aggravated assault using a deadly weapon.
Señor, se encuentra usted detenido por acusación de homicidio sin premeditación, agresión con agravantes, agresión y arma mortal.
This is the time for your initial appearance where we're going to set conditions of release. I've had the opportunity.
Inicial para poner condiciones de libertad provisional. Go ahead, Your Honor.
You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an. Sorry, go ahead, Pedro. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services.
Quiero revisar información que se me aportó por la Agencia de Servicios Preprocesales.
I've also had the opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. They are recommending a $100,000 cash or secured bond. That is my inclination in light of the circumstances and the information provided by pretrial services. Does the state want to be heard further?
Wait further from that.
Defense?
Nada más dicen. La defensa.
Yes, please. Your Honor, we're asking that you impose a $50,000 bond.
Sí, gracias, señora juez. Lo que pedimos nosotros es que se le imponga una fianza de $50,000.
Mr. Romero Bray is a level 1 nonviolent on the new scale.
El señor Bray, la puntuación de él en análisis inicial indica nivel número 1 en incidentes no violentos.
He scored a 1 on both FTA and NCA scale.
Él anotó puntuaciones de número 1 en las anotaciones de faltas de comparecencias y NCA, would you please expand on NCA designation, counsel?
New criminal activity scale.
Sí, la escala de actividades penales nuevas, dice. Puntuaciones de número 1 en las dos categorías. Thank you.
You're welcome. He's been living in Tucson for 6 months. He's employed. He's 27. He has no prior felony arrest history.
Él ha vivido en Tucson, Arizona por más de 6 meses, empleado hábilmente y ningunos antecedentes.
And
Tiene
reading
27
from
años.
reading
Go ahead, please.
and from reading the interim complaint, this appears to have been an accident that happened during a legal gun purchase.
Ahora dice que al ver los datos que se ven en la acusación inicial, parece ser algo que ocurrió después de un accidente donde la compra de un arma legal.
For those reasons, we're asking for the $50,000.
Por esos motivos pedimos fianza de $50,000.
Sir, I also want to tell you that regardless of what we do here today with your bond, it does appear that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency has placed a hold on you.
Señor, no obstante lo que hagamos aquí en cuanto a recomendaciones de fianza y lo que se imponga, se ve que existe una orden de detención activa en contra suya por el Departamento de Migración y Protección de Fronteras y de Aduanas.
So that matter with the federal government will have to be resolved before you get released. Today, we're only talking about the felony charges.
Entonces, ese asunto que tiene pendiente con el gobierno federal tiene que resolverse antes de poder salir usted. Aquí solamente estamos hablando de los delitos graves que tiene pendientes en lo nuevo.
I am going to impose a $75,000 cash or secured bond today. If you do post that bond, you'll be released to the custody of pretrial services and you'll have to maintain contact with that agency. You are also not allowed to possess any firearms or weapons. You cannot have any alcohol or illegal drugs. You will not be allowed to have any contact with the victims in this case or their families. And you cannot return to the incident location. Do you understand your conditions of release, sir? Your next hearing is October 21st at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That hearing may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for appearing at all future court dates.
Esa audiencia podrá llevarse a cabo. Si será responsable usted de aparecer en todas las audiencias que se programen en su caso a continuación.
If you fail to appear at future court dates, a warrant could issue for your arrest.
Si no se presenta en audiencias futuras, podría emitir su orden por su detención.
If you stay in custody, the jail will transport you to your next hearings. But if you do post bond and get out of custody, you need to stay in contact with your attorney in case there are any changes in court dates.
Ahora, si sigue usted detenido, lo trasladarán a las audiencias que le tocan después, pero si logra salir, es importante mantenerse en comunicación con su abogado para estar al tanto de cualquier audiencia que se cambie o que se programe en el futuro.
Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for your court dates?
Ahora, entiende las consecuencias, señor, de no presentarse a las audiencias futuras.
Yes.
All right, that's all for today.
Bien, es todo por
Your
hoy.
Honor.
Gracias.
Yes, go
Ahora,
ahead.
abogado, espere.
Your Honor, before you let the interpreter go, can I provide some brief legal advice utilizing the interpreter?
Yes, but it'll be
Pregunta
over
del
Teams
abogado.
for everybody to hear.
That's okay.
Dice
Okay,
que
so-
pide
so-
permiso para dar. Hold on, counsel. Let me tell him what you just said. Dice que pide permiso para comunicar la información en lo legal antes de que se despida de la presencia de la juez. La juez dice, sí puede decírselo, pero tiene que estar al pendiente y enterado que se llevará a cabo por la transmisión general y todo el mundo podrá escuchar lo que le dice. Dice, sí, en todo caso quisiera proceder. Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you. So I just wanted to tell you that it's in your best interest not to talk about what did or didn't happen with anyone besides your attorney.
Ahora, es muy importante que usted no hable ni platique de lo que pudo haber ocurrido o no ocurrió en su caso con nadie más excepto con su propio abogado.
Your attorney will be here to visit you soon.
Su abogado estará presente para hablar con usted pronto
And all your communications with anyone in the jail, phone calls, video visits, are monitored by the government.
y cualquier comunicación que lleve a cabo usted con personas mientras detenido, ya sea por teléfono, por video, serán monitoreadas por el gobierno.
So don't talk about what did or didn't happen with anyone besides your attorney. That's all I have. Thank you.
Con nadie de lo que pudo haber pasado o de lo que no pasó con nadie excepto su propio abogado.
You're all done, sir.
Es todo, señor.
Para.
And this is a misdemeanor, Mr. Davis, just so you know.
Thank
Good morning. Tell me your name.
Ernesto Duarte Parra.
Mr. Fada, you are here today for misdemeanor charges of harassment. It's a domestic violence offense.
Señor, se encuentra usted que detenido por acusaciones de delitos menores de acoso. Es un incidente de violencia doméstica.
You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
Tiene usted el derecho a guardar silencio. Cualquier cosa que diga podrá y será usada en contra suya.
I have an address for you on South Mission Road. Is that a good address for you, sir?
Tengo una dirección aquí para usted, señor. La dirección es correcta, pero el camino Mission Road. Yes.
If I release you today on these charges, will you promise to appear at a court date that I give you in the future?
Si lo dejo salir el día de hoy, señor, ¿me promete presentarse a la audiencia que le programe para después?
Sí.
Yes.
I am going to release you on your promise to appear. Your next
Lo voy
court,
a dejar salir bajo palabra. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
no, you're fine. Your next court date is going to be November 12th at 10:30 in the morning at Pima County Justice Court.
La próxima comparecencia suya será el día 12 de noviembre a las 10:30 en el Juzgado de Paz del Condado Pima, Pima County Justice Court.
Your additional
Okay.
conditions of release are that you not commit any further acts of domestic violence.
Las condiciones adicionales de su escarcelamiento incluyen no cometer actos adicionales de violencia doméstica.
At this time, you cannot have any contact with the victim in this case, your wife, Johanna Duarte.
Ahora, también se le puede tener contacto y comunicación con la víctima en este caso, su esposa, Johanna Duarte.
You are not going to be able to go to where she lives or where she works.
No podrá regresar usted donde vive ella, ni donde trabaja ella.
If you are currently living together, you're going to need to find another place to reside.
Ahora, si están viviendo juntos actualmente, tendrá que buscar vivienda aparte y separada de ella, señor.
Sí.
Yes.
You will be able to do that, sir?
Podrá hacerlo, buscar dónde más vivir y no con ella.
Sí, de hecho ya estoy yendo con unos amigos.
Yes, in fact, I'm already living with some friends of mine.
All right. So you understand those
Bien.
additional conditions of release.
Entonces, ¿sí entiende las condiciones que le acabo de poner, las condiciones adicionales de libertad?
Sí.
Yes.
You do need to appear for that court date on November 12th. If you fail to appear at that court date, they could issue a warrant for your arrest.
Ahora, usted debe presentarse a la comparecencia el día 12 de noviembre. Si no se presenta, se emitirá orden de detención en contra suya.
Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear, Mr. Parra?
Señor Parra, ¿entiende las consecuencias de no presentarse cuando debe presentarse?
Sí.
Yes.
You will be released later today and you'll get a copy of your paperwork that has your court date and the information on where you're to appear.
Bien, ya saldrá de la cárcel después del día de hoy. Le darán copias del documento oficial donde se le indica dónde presentarse y qué día, qué hora para la próxima audiencia.
¿Puedo preguntar algo?
May I ask something?
Yes.
Siga.
O sea que ¿me voy a comparecer yo solo a la corte o ella también?
Well, I mean, will I appear on my own at the following court hearing, or will she be there as well?
She has a right to be present as the victim of the case.
Como víctima en el caso, ella tiene derecho de presentarse en cualquier audiencia que se programe su caso, señor.
Pero es que otra cosa que el problema que nosotros tenemos es otro caso que parece ser que tengo que hacer una demanda ante migración.
¿Ante quién?
Ante migración porque es un caso de bigamia en el que estamos, en el que está ella conmigo.
Well, it's just another problem. We do have another problem with immigration where I may need to file some sort of action because of the fact that we are together.
Sir, the only matter we're here to talk about today is this misdemeanor charge of domestic violence.
Señor, el único tema que estamos tratando aquí el día de hoy es esa acusación de delito menor de violencia doméstica, nada más.
Bueno, por otra cosa, ella anda manejando un carro mío. Ella anda manejando un carro mío. ¿Qué va a pasar con el carro?
She's currently driving a car that belongs to me. She's currently driving my car. What will happen to that car?
Sir, I would encourage you to talk to an attorney about any other issues that you have. The court today is limited to handling matters related to your arrest for this domestic violence offense. That's it.
Señor, yo le recomiendo que usted consulte con un abogado que le tenga hasta los adultos. Aquí solamente estamos tratando lo que tiene pendiente en el juzgado nuestro con el delito menor de violencia doméstica, nada más.
Ya la última pregunta, oiga, porque se va a graduar mi hija en la universidad el día 25. ¿Me podrían dar un permiso para ir nada más a la ceremonia de la graduación de mi hija?
One last question. My daughter is set to graduate from university this 25th. May I be granted a special permit just to be able to attend that graduation?
The only order right now, sir, is that you not have any contact with your wife, the victim in this case. So I'm not telling you you can't go to your daughter's graduation. You just need to avoid her. Don't sit with her. Don't sit near her.
La única condición que le hemos impuesto es la libertad de no tener comunicación con su esposa. No le estoy diciendo a usted que no puede ir o que puede ir a la graduación de su hija. Lo único que le digo es que evite contacto, no se siente al lado de ella, no la aproxime, no se acerque a ella, es todo, con la señora suya.
Si ella aceptara que si fuera, si mi esposa, pues,
And what happens if she approaches me? What would happen then? My wife.
Sir, you just need to stay away from her.
Tiene que mantenerse distante de ella nada más, señor.
por eso quería saber, tenía duda.
That's what I wanted to know about. I had a question about that.
You just need to stay away from her. If she approaches you, turn around and walk the other way.
Simplemente manténgase distante de ella. Si se acerca a ella, aléjese, dele la espalda y aléjese.
You're all
Está
done.
bien, ya,
You're all done.
ya
for
el otro
today?
That's
asunto.
fine. Es todo por hoy. Gracias.
Gracias, muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Davis, I
Aguilar?
think we're all done. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Same thing.
Your Honor, we have Aguilar coming up and Cook. I just want to give you a heads up. I'd like to be heard on probable cause in both of those.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Alex Willem Aguilar.
Mr. Aguilar, you are here today on charges of aggravated DUI, possession of a dangerous drug, and weapons misconduct. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's attorney's recommendation as to your conditions of release. They are asking for a $5,500 bond. Your attorney, the attorney sitting next to you today, has indicated that he wants to address the court on probable cause. So I'm going to have you do that first, and then Mr. Hotchkiss, I'll hear from you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm referring specifically to the aggravated DUI charge. Let's see here. So the allegations here is that it's a marijuana DUI. Not sure if the court is aware of this yet, but the appellate court recently came out with the decision saying that in order for someone to be found guilty of a DUI, not only must they have marijuana in their system, but they're also must show signs of impairment. So in this case, it appears the officer conducted standard field sobriety tests, which are designed to detect impairment from alcohol, not marijuana. There is very little, if any, evidence to indicate whatsoever that he was impaired while he had marijuana in his system and while he was driving. The probable cause statement notes that he failed to maintain a lane, but doesn't specify much more than that. Given all that, I'm asking that you dismiss the aggravated DUI charge because there's no indication that he was driving while impaired.
So, Mr. Hotchkiss, before I hear from you, what I will say is Rule 4.2 doesn't allow me to dismiss a charge regardless of the probable cause issue. I'll talk about that in a second, but the remedy is release. It has nothing to do with this court dismissing. So I'm not going to dismiss a charge, but the issue would be whether or not, and I think you would agree, counsel, there is probable cause for the weapons misconduct and possession of a dangerous drug, right? You're not challenging those for purposes of probable cause.
That's correct.
Okay, Mr. Hotchkiss.
I disagree with the substance of Mr. Diffenderfer's argument. I'll keep it short, but the performance on the field sobriety test, while those tests may not be conventionally validated for marijuana DUIs in the manner that they are for alcohol-related DUIs, they are still relevant in an officer's determination if someone may be impaired, impaired for the purpose of a DUI violation. Also, the failure to remain within the lane is noteworthy because, that's something that is a nighttime driving cue, something that is consistent with somebody that may be impaired for the task of driving. For those reasons, I don't see the PC argument. Thank you.
I will also note that the interim does say that the officer personally observed signs and symptoms of possible impairment, to note red and bloodshot eyes, odor of marijuana coming from Mr. Aguilar, as well as dilated pupils. And there was the THC vape pen that was in between his legs. So I do find that there is probable cause for that charge. As to conditions of release, Mr. Hotchkiss, did you want to be heard? I note that the state is asking for a $5,500 bond.
And nothing further from us on that front. Thank you.
Defense?
Yes, Your Honor. He scored level 1 nonviolent on the new scale. He's 19 years old, no prior FTAs, no prior felonies. His lifelong resident of Tucson, which was verified by his father. He's also a full-time cook, which was verified by his father, and his father's willing to assume third-party custody of him as well. Given all that, I'm asking that you release him to the enhanced supervision of pretrial services.
So my understanding also is enhanced supervision doesn't exist anymore. Pretrial services isn't offering that. So that's not an option for the court. I will note that there is a misdemeanor DUI that did occur in May of this year, and it looks like he was given 12 months of probation in September of this year as well. The court is imposing a $7,500 cash or secured bond at this time. If you're able to post that bond, Mr. Aguilar, then you'd be released to the custody of pretrial services. You'll be ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment that they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. If you do post bond and you are released, they will ask you to participate in alcohol testing, and you will need to do that. You are not to drive without a valid license. You can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Do you understand all of your conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your next court date is a preliminary hearing. That is October 21st at 2024 at 1:30. That hearing may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. If you do get released, sir, please make sure you stay in contact with your attorney. That's the only way you're going to know about the changes in court dates. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. That's all for today.
Everything's monitored here.
Ashley?
How you doing? Good. How are you?
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Yes, ma'am. It's Christopher John Ashley.
Mr. Ashley, you are here today on a charge of aggravated assault, temporary but substantial disfigurement. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing today. This hearing is about setting your conditions of release and providing you with an additional court date. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on your matter. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation. It does look like the state is asking for a $7,500 bond. Mr. Hotchkiss? You were very garbled. I'm going to take that to mean that the state doesn't have anything to add.
Very perceptive of you, Your Honor. That's it. Thank you.
All right, defense?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Ashley has no prior felony convictions. Apparently, he has 23 years residency within the state, as verified by his mom. He has a job as well, which was verified by his mom. And his mom's willing to assume third-party custody of him as well. Given all that, I'm asking that you release him to the supervision of pretrial services.
PCC student as well, taking the electrician trade.
Okay, so that wasn't
not working.
That wasn't in the pretrial service workup, but apparently he's a student right now trying to become an electrician. And you're in the matter right now.
Yeah, full-time worker, part-time student.
Okay.
Fast track in my electrical.
Okay. So, Mr. Ashley, I am going to release you to pretrial services today. Your conditions of release are that you must stay in contact with that agency. They need to know where you are and you must stay in contact with them. You are not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You cannot have any firearms while this case is going on. If you do own firearms, you do need to surrender those to the police department while this case is going on. Your attorney can assist you with that. You are not to have any contact with the victim in this case, and you cannot return to the incident location. It's an apartment complex where you both live. I understand from pretrial that your mom is able to perhaps provide you a place to stay, but you cannot go back to the incident location. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am, I do understand.
If you need to return to the incident location, I can check a box on your form that allows you to return with law enforcement to collect any belongings you may need at this time. Is that something you would like me to do?
So I don't believe the person stays there. I believe the person was there that day.
Sir, I'm not gonna debate that with you. You cannot return to the incident location based on information that the court has at this time. So whatever you may believe, those are gonna be the orders of the court at this time. You can talk with your attorney about changing that in the future if you need to, but today I need to set conditions of release, and based on the information I have to consider community safety and victim safety, and so that's my order. Do you understand?
Yes, I do understand.
So I am giving you the opportunity to go back to your apartment if you need to collect things, or someone else can go for you without taking law enforcement. But if you want to return back to that apartment complex or your apartment, you need to take law enforcement with you so that you can gather all of your stuff from what you need for now.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so I will. Okay, so I will also indicate that you can return with police escorts to pick up your belongings from your apartment if you want to be the one to return to the incident location. And no one's saying that's a forever thing, sir, but it is for right now, until and unless your attorney does something to change those conditions. So you understand all of those and agree to abide by them?
So I'm trying to get clarity. I'm not able to, I have to move from where I initially was living, correct?
So I'm not telling you that you have to move. You just can't stay there for the time being. Talk with your attorney through the public defender's office and you guys can communicate that. So I'm not imposing a time frame. I'm not ordering you to move from the apartment. What I'm telling you is for now, you cannot return back there.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So understanding those conditions, are you going to abide by those?
Yes, ma'am. Definitely will.
All right. Your next hearing in this case is going to be October 31st at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. If you fail to appear, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Because you will be out of custody, it's very important that you stay in contact with your attorney so that if there are changes in the court dates, you know what those are. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear, Mr. Ashley? All right, that's all for today.
All right, thank you so much.
You too.
Okay, that's pre-trial, and then the statement and follow the directions. System. So this, you can give the false long, you know, your attorneys, they can help you modify conditions of release. Perhaps to allow you to return to live. And then we gotta Johnson is the word first, okay? Thank you, look here.
And then your name is what?
Sam, defender for public defender's office. Sam, but I won't be. Most likely.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, thank you, man. Yeah.
You too.
Columbo? Be advised, Your Honor, Columbo June does have an APO.
Got it. Thank you. Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Julie Marie Columbo.
Ms. Columbo, you are here on a charge of aggravated DUI. Your license was suspended, so this is a felony charge. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. What the jail informed me as you sat down, ma'am, is that you also have a probation hold. Because you are on probation, you're going to need to be seen on that matter. So regardless of what we do as to your conditions of release on this case, the felony probation hold will remain until that's resolved. You also are on misdemeanor probation as well. This is the time to set your conditions of release. I've had an opportunity to review pretrial services information. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation. The state is recommending a $7,500 bond. To be quite candid, I was going to impose a much higher bond than that. The court was inclined to impose a $20,000 cash or secured bond today. Mr. Hotchkiss, did you want to be heard further?
Well, I feel bad now. But I mean, I see a .208 BAC on the PBT. She's got multiple violent prior felony convictions, as I understand it. She's on probation, reference, and aggravated assault case. So 7,500 struck me as appropriate. I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
I will also note the DUI that she has out of Oro Valley that she is currently on probation for as well. Mr. Diffenderver?
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, given the probation hold, she's not going anywhere. So we ask that you impose a nominal bond if you're willing to do the 7,500. It's reasonable. She has no prior FTAs. She's got ties to the community, as indicated by ADOT records. Got a place to live, and she and it's local. So for all those reasons, we're asking that you impose a nominal bond.
I am going to impose a $20,000 cash or secured bond. If you are able to post that bond, ma'am, then you'll be released to pretrial services. As to this case, again, you're going to have to get your probation matter dealt with. If you do post the bond and you are released to pretrial, you are expected to maintain contact with that agency. You are not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You can't have any firearms. You are not to drive without a valid license. You don't have a valid license right now, so you should not be driving. Do you understand all those conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
Your next hearing is October 21st at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you are expected to appear at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. If you're in custody, the jail will transport you for your next hearings, or you'll appear via video, much like you're doing today. But if you get released, you do need to make sure that you appear. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear, Ms. Columbo?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all for today.
You said, can you use this all your communications or those with their attorneys? Okay. The attorney should be up to contact you by that. Not today, for the next week. Let's see.
Cook.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Anthony Lee Cook.
Mr. Cook, you are here today on charges of attempted aggravated robbery and kidnapping. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing today. So, Mr. Diffenderver, I know there is a co-defendant on this case. I don't know if it's your office or not, and I didn't have information about who to appoint, so I just want to alert you to that today, that it could be a potential conflict if the co-defendant's represented by your office.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either.
Well, today, sir, the public defender's office is representing you for purposes of this hearing and setting your conditions of release. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation. The state's attorney is asking that you be held on a $50,000 bond. That is my inclination in light of the information from pretrial and the circumstances of the offense. Mr. Hotchkiss, did you want to be heard further?
Nothing further into the bond. I will say that the co-defendant Thomas O'Brien is represented by the PD's office, Mr. Fatak Samihan. So for that reason, a different office is going to be needed.
So I'm going to switch it today and just appoint the legal defender's office instead. So I will make that change and note it here. Obviously, OCAC can modify that in the future. But as for conditions of release, defense.
Your Honor, this is the other one I wanted to be heard on for probable cause, specifically in reference to the kidnapping charge. If I may.
Sure.
Okay, so just reading the interim complaint, there's no indication that the alleged victim in this case was ever restrained, which is required by says it in 13-1304A, a person commits kidnapping by knowingly restraining another person with the intent to, and then all these options, right? But there's no evidence according to the internal complaint that he was ever restrained.
Mr. Hotchkiss.
So the restraint doesn't have to be literal in the sense that if you point a gun at somebody and say, do not move, that is restraint just the same. Beyond that, Your Honor, given the court's inclination to hold on the bond that the state has requested, I would submit as to the PC argument. Thank you.
I do find that there is PC as to the kidnapping as well as the aggravated robbery. Because someone has a gun pointed at them, I agree with the state. The restraint does not have to be a physical restraint. Having a gun pointed to your head is enough of restraint to support the statute and probable cause. Anything else as to conditions of release, Mr. Diffenderfer?
Yes, Your Honor. He's scored level 1 on the new scaling system, non-violent, surprisingly. A 2 on the NCA scale, a 3 on the FTA scale, no FTAs in the past 2 years, no prior felony arrests. According to the interim complaint, I know this is some concerning alleged behavior, but the alleged victim also appears to have contradicted himself in the police. And in both of those statements, there's no indication that this particular co-defendant was the one that pointed and shot the gun. So for those reasons, we're asking for release to pretrial services. And if you're not inclined to do that, impose a nominal bond.
Mr. Cook, I am going to impose a bond in the amount of $50,000 that is cash or secured. If you do post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you do get released, you're required to report to pretrial services and participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you cannot have any firearms. Do not have any contact with the victims in this case and do not return to the incident location. Do you understand all those conditions of release, Mr. Cook?
Yeah.
Your next hearing is a preliminary hearing on October 21st at 1:30. That hearing may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for attending all future court dates. If you fail to appear, a warrant will issue for your arrest. If you do stay in custody, the jail will transport you or have you appear via video, much like you're doing today for your hearings. But if you do get released and post your bond, you need to stay in contact with your attorney so that you're aware of all future court dates. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear, Mr. Cook?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's
He
all.
said yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I didn't hear him. You're all done, sir.
Yes. Okay, so this is to the attorney's office. I imagine the attorney will see you the next week, given it's a Friday. This is your phone. Talk about what did happen with anyone. Phone, the video, aside from your attorney. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
She asked, did you hear that?
I need you to tell me your name.
Jimmy Hogue.
Mr. Hogue, you are here today for an initial appearance on an aggravated assault with a dangerous instrument. It is a domestic violence offense. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say kind of will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the legal defender's office to represent you. You have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing today. He won't be your attorney, but he is going to represent you as we discuss conditions of release. Couple other things, Mr. Hogue. There is a city court matter that we're going to talk about when we're done with the felony matter. And I've also been informed that you have a hold through the Department of Corrections. So regardless of what we do for your conditions of release here today, you will be staying in custody until the DOC matter can be resolved. Do you understand that? I need you to answer out loud. Mr. Hogue, do you understand?
He's choosing not to answer it at this point, Your Honor.
All right, we're going to continue. I have had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. The state is asking for a $20,000 bond. That is the court's inclination. Mr. Hotchkiss, did you want to be heard further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Diffenderfer?
Your Honor, he has one prior FTA in the past 2 years. He's got 24 years worth of ties to the community, which is verified. He has a local address. Given the DOC hold, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm asking that you impose a lower bond of $10,000.
I am going to impose a bond in the amount of $20,000 that will be cash or secured. If you do post that bond, Mr. Hogue, and you get your DOC matter resolved, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you get released to pretrial services, you're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You cannot commit any further acts of domestic violence. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms. You are not to have any contact with the victim in this case. That includes while you're in custody. They do give you access to tablets, phones. All of those things are going to be recorded and monitored, and you are not to have any contact with the victim. Do not return to the incident location. Do you understand those conditions of release?
I don't think he's going to answer, Your Honor.
Okay. And I will just note for purposes of the record that when I ask if he's going to, or if he understands, he just turns and looks to his attorney. So I just want to make sure that the record is clear that that's what's happening. And he's nodding his head at this time. All right. Your next hearing, sir, is going to be October 21st at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for attending all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear? And I will just note that, yeah, again, he's just looking at his attorney. With respect to the hearing date, if you're in custody, sir, they'll transport you. If you're out of custody, it is your responsibility to appear. That's all for the felony case. You are also here for an initial appearance on a warrant that was issued out of city court for an assault and disorderly conduct charge. You do have the right to remain silent on that offense. I am going to release you on the city court matter. You're not to have any contact with the victim and do not return to the incident location. That appears to have occurred at the hut. So if you do get released, sir, you're not to have any contact with the victim and don't return to the incident location. Your next hearing for city court is going to be October 18th at 1:45. If you are still in custody, that's going to be a video review hearing in front of Judge Verena. If you do fail to appear for that hearing, if you do get released, you will need to show up then as well. And if you don't show up, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. Do you understand the information about your conditions in the city court case and the consequences for failing to appear? I will note again that he's just looking at the attorney and not responding verbally He has been making eye contact with the court and does appear to have a smirk and is kind of nodding his head a little bit now. So that's all for today, sir. You're done.
That's just fine.
It's anywhere you can get seen by like medical, something's going on.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can
It's
address
a mental
mental
health. Yeah.
to do with
Yeah.
all of
Yeah,
them.
just given the nature of the charges too. Okay.
Okay.
Here, bud.
I can take this card.
It's gonna go
Yeah,
with you.
I'll give it
Your
to her.
attorney should be visit you soon, okay?
All right, we're all done today, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful